things in Botswana is there's no cell service in the game reserves. So for 2 weeks, we have no idea what's going on in the rest of the world. And Arlene, when I was talking with her this morning, reminded me, hey, I'm going to be gone during the next election in November. I will be gone in 2024 during November, so great. You know, I'll hear about it after the dust is settled and I get back home. Thanks to Pastor Meredith for inviting me here, and thanks to the IT crew here, Jeff, who isn't here, and then Patrick, who's working the control room, along with Anika. So I thank them for all this amazing technology working this morning. So I'm curious, have any of you ever been on a safari to Africa? No. Katie has been. Katie was talking about that. That was about a long time ago. She was a child then almost, but an adult. But has anybody ever thought they'd like to do a Botswana safari anywhere in Africa? Yeah, a few people. Okay, so we'll talk about that. And talking with Patrick last Thursday, he said, yeah, I'd like to do it sometime. And he has some really good questions. And maybe we'll get to some of those later on. So, why Botswana, and how did I ever get there in the first place? So it all started back in 2014 when a friend of mine, Bruce Beeler, retired director now of the Milwaukee Zoo, invited a group of people to go with him. So that was 2014, and I didn't know what I was getting into. I remember the night I had talked to him during a gathering at the zoo, and he said, well, I'm not sure. He said, I haven't read my emails. I don't know if you'll be able to get in, but I'll let you know tonight. And around 11 o'clock, I had an email. He said, you're in. That's the good news. I did not sleep at all that night, as you can imagine. I thought, what have I got myself in for? And anyway, that was my first. And then this one, in late 2022, December last year, some friends got in touch with me and were interested in getting back to Botswana and started organizing it. We're eventually able to get enough people to go together. So on this particular one, there were 9 people that went with us. So what draws me to Botswana is basically the abundance of wildlife. You're going to see lots of elephants, you're going to see lions, you're going to see leopards, you're going to see hippos, and a lot of hoofstock and beautiful birds. First time I went, that just blew me away. People talked about the birds. And at first I thought, I didn't come here to shoot birds. And I really got impatient, but after a while, as I began to understand the beautiful birds that are there, and of course, you know, there are migratory patterns, and it varies from, I'm sorry? Oh, that's right. I'm going to need this. Thank you, Patrick. So anyway, all these safaris that I've gone on have been hosted by Elephant Trails Safari Company, my walking ad. They take wonderful care of us. They're owned by a couple living in Mound, Botswana, where we fly into. So we do this on 2 trucks. You'll be seeing this. So each truck has a guide/driver. Interesting, last time we were there, a guy was saying, you know, in social situations, people ask him, I mean, he's the guy that owns the safari company, they ask him what his occupation is. He says, I'm a driver. You know, it's like, but he has all this stuff in his head about wildlife and how to navigate all these roads that just, there's no GPS there. But these people just have an amazing ability to track wildlife. So this time, did this with 9 friends, some there before, some were new, about half and half. So here's an overview of what we're going to do. So first I'm going to run through, now that I have the clicker, we're going to run through some slides to kind of do an overview. And then I'm going to show 5 videos of varying lengths that share some of the experiences in each of the 4 game reserves that we did visit. So, okay, let's start the slideshow. So how do you get to Botswana? Well, it's not easy. This map just shows the starting point, the end point. So we start out in Milwaukee. head down to Atlanta, catch a 16-hour flight to Johannesburg, and there we spend the night. So that first day is about 24 hours of travel. Spend the night, then you hop on a plane and go up to Mount Botswana, which is shown as the end point on the map. So yeah, this is a slide that I made back in 2014. So this is kind of hard to see, but this is Botswana. Botswana is about the size of Texas. Think about the size of Texas. And about 20% of the lands there are designated by the government as game reserves. So there's no people that live on these game reserves. Basically, they're people that had been there before have all been relocated into other areas. So it's only wildlife in these game reserves, and they are numerous. And so this morning's presentation, we'll be talking about the safari, the trips that we did in 4 of those game reserves. So what do I take? Besides my underwear, I do take some camera gear. I've got 2 cameras, one with a long lens and one with a more of a mid-range lens. So that's one thing that's just evolved beautifully over the years, is the technology to be able to capture all these sights and sounds. So yeah, so I got this bag, and then I got a big duffel bag, and about half my duffel bag is camera gear maybe, but and then a few clothes. Don't need too many. So one of the things I love about this trip, though it's long, is I don't know. I just love the sunrise. You know, so you take off and you're there in the middle of the night. It's dark, and at some point, then the sun begins to come up. You're up so high, and I've seen this several times, and just love it. So once we get into Mound, finally we're in Mound, okay, and we're met by Elephant Trails Safari Company. That's Guy Simons on the right. He's the owner, one of our guides. And up on the top, you can't quite see him, is Frank on the other truck. We'll talk about Frank a little bit more later, but Frank was born and raised in Botswana, raised in the bush by his grandparents, as I understand it. He knows Africa, he knows the bush, and so it's amazing to have him with us. And by the way, he's a former boxing champion. So if you go through small towns, it's like he's a celebrity. It's like everybody's waving at Frank. There's Frank, you know. It's just, and he's a great guy. I just love him. So this was our group last time at the end of the trip. So the second row is also, then you've got our camp crew. So there's 5 people in our camp crew. They're the guys, the folks that usually this year was all men. Sometimes we've had a woman in it. But they set up all our tents for us. They cook our meals and keep us happy. Last trip, I was asking Guy, well, what do people love most about, he was talking about what makes a successful safari? And this surprised me. Number 1, he said, was the food. I'm thinking, all this amazing wildlife, but yet, you know, if your guests aren't happy with the meals, what they're being fed, apparently they're not happy. So they kept us happy with food, that's for sure. These are our high-end accommodations. So we tent. So the tents are on the ground. The camp crew has set all these up. So it's 2 people per tent. 2 people per tent on a cot. So we are off the ground. And lo and behold, we do have an ensuite. This is our one half of our ensuite. So this is our Kohler toilet. And then we have the Kohler shower head. We're allowed a 2-minute shower. So believe me, at the end of every day, you want to get under that water and just get all the dust and sweat off. And so this looks crude, but this is an upgrade from previous years. Used to be like a 2014 when we went. It was, if you had to go to the bathroom during the night, you had to go outside the tent to a loo. So you get outside the tent and you get your flashlight on, you look for eyes. You don't want to see any eyes on your way. If you see eyes, then it's tough luck, hold it. So this is the dining area. So like I said, the food's fantastic. It's just the menus are basically things that we have at home. One of the first nights we'll have a fish fry, lots of pasta, stews, things. We do not go hungry. So let's look at some of the animals we do see. So we see lions. So notice how close they are to the truck. In these game reserves, it seems like the animals have learned that they will not be harmed. There's no hunting in these game reserves. So the lions do get close to the trucks. In fact, sometimes the lions will lie down in the shade of a truck, like, a few feet from you. But outside the game reserves, then life is different. And then they know that they've got to preserve themselves, do whatever it takes. I mentioned the birds. This is lilac-breasted roller, just a beautiful bird. Leopard in a tree. Hey, if you find a leopard, usually they're in the trees, either with a kill up there trying to protect it, or they're up there looking around for game. So leopards are solitary beasts. They live pretty much by themselves, unlike lions who you see in prides. Giraffes, elephants. Yeah, we're going to see lots of elephants in these slides and shows. Hippos, Cape buffalo. These are dangerous animals. You don't want to get near them. Wild dogs, or African wild dogs, sometimes called painted dogs. There's other names, but I'm just going to refer to them as the dogs, so the wild dogs. So we're going to see them quite a bit. Amazing stories about them. Wildebeests, zebras, back end of a warthog, front end of a warthog. They're not preying, they're eating, It's just impalas, water bucks. You can tell the water bucks by the white ring around the butt end. And red lechwe, we don't have these at the Milwaukee Zoo. They just have an incredible ability to run quickly in watery areas, swampy areas, to avoid being attacked and killed. They're beautiful, just love them. And we had some gorgeous sunsets. The sunrises are gorgeous, the sunsets are gorgeous. So, okay. So now we're going to get on with any questions at this point? Yeah. In these game reserves, I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of it. Other parts, actually, poaching is down a lot from what it was, like back in the 60s, 70s, from what I understand. A lot of these countries in Africa have just taken such a strong position in trying to control it. Some of it does go on. But sometimes there are villagers, get outside the game reserves, and these people need to eat, and they're probably going to kill an antelope or something. Yeah, another question. I'm sorry. I thought there was one. Oh, I'm sorry. It's pretty much flat, sea level. Yeah. Yeah, one thing, to talk about the weather, it's hot. So the idea is, we go there in November. Why November? That's the hot time of the year. So the idea is, because animals need water, water's limited, so you find the water, you find the animals. So actually, in this trip, the first area we were supposed to go to had so much rain before we got there. Knowing that, and that the animals would be dispersed, the tour was redesigned to avoid that. So, yeah, other questions? Yeah. We haul a lot of water. Yeah, it's in each of our trucks, the two trucks where the people are traveling around. Water bottles fill that truck, large water bottles, and by the end of the trip, they're pretty well gone. Also, there's storage area. Inside the truck, there's a valve, and you can get good water out of that. So, yeah, Patrick. Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll try to repeat the questions. I think it'll go faster. So try to remind me to do that, please. Okay? Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, how hot does it get? When we're there, it's 100, a little bit higher. It depends. Fortunately, this trip we did have some clouds and had some rain, which definitely cooled things down. But at the peak, yeah, it can be 100 or a little bit over. How hot? I don't know. We don't carry thermometers. We don't want to talk about it. One of the things we say on these trips is no complaining. So if you had a thermometer, you might complain. Yes? Is it humid or is it dry? If it hasn't rained, it's very dry. Yeah, but then you get a rain and it's going to be humid. So, and then the bugs come out too after a rain. So, yeah. Got some huge bugs in Africa. So, okay, anything else? Okay, thanks. Yes, Bridget. So then did you catch a bug net? Like, did you catch anything to no. Bugs stop you? You know, malaria is a big problem, but it's a bigger problem during the rainy season, which runs basically December into April. We are treated for malaria. We take pills, you know, but mosquitoes are one thing you don't see that time of the year, fortunately. But nevertheless, it is a problem. I mean, lots of people die from malaria in Botswana. It's one of the big killers. But it's mostly those rainy months. Yeah. Anything else? It does get hot. That's the one thing I don't enjoy. Anyway, we make the best of it. Try to stay hydrated. That's the big thing. So this first video is at a reserve I can't pronounce the way the locals do. It's Xini. I'm going to call it Zini. When locals talk about it, it's with a click in it. There's many dialects within Africa as well. So this is our first game reserve. So, you know, we had the slide where they're picking us up at the airport, and we head out for that first game reserve right away. So what's a day like? What's a typical day like? So you wake up about 5:45 in the morning. So it's still dark. And the idea is, so then we grab a quick breakfast, and they do feed us well. And then we hop on a truck around 6:15, if we can be 6:30 at the latest. And the idea is to get out and look for what's out there. So the guides have an amazing ability to hear things during the night that I don't hear while I'm sleeping. I mean, now and then I'll hear a lion roar, but I don't hear much. But they'll hear things, and they'll talk about it in the morning. So that may, if they were close to camp, they may head out in that direction. They'll also get out and they'll look at the road, and they'll look for tracks, you know, and which are the fresh tracks, and what animals are they? You know, is it something that's really desirable, like a lion or a leopard? And then we'll go looking for it. And these guys just have an amazing ability to find things and set us up in locations, sometimes anticipating. You know, it's like the animal will see, you saw it back there, and they'll drive far, far, far ahead, and then all of a sudden you'll see, oh, that lion's coming around that bush. It's like, how'd they know that? I don't know. So we're going to see a lot of different animals in this one, so it's a good start. So let's go on a safari in Zini, I think. Whoops. We got stuck in the water right away. That's what it's like bouncing along in a truck. I don't know how they find these leopards up in trees. I don't know. Every morning we have morning tea. Good chance to go bushy. Video after this is going to be entirely about this encounter with the elephants. It's a guinea fowl. Here's a leopard hiding under some trees. Nap time. We're going to see two lions here. This is the first one. Watch the way he hits the ground. Choke. This is the second lion. Watch the way he hits the ground. So these guys may have a pride. These guys may have a pride, or they could be bachelors out on their own. There's a pride with female and cubs, younger ones. Look at those teeth. watch this encounter with wild dogs. Here's a jackal trying to steal a kill from the wild dogs. Here they are feasting on a kill. This is typical of the landscape in Botswana. Storms. There's a dead frog in the water. Lunch in the bush. Any questions? Okay, Pastor's going to bring Terry. That's a good question. I don't know. How far was I away when I was photographing the leopard in the tree? Had a long lens and I don't know, 200-300 feet. I don't know. We were pretty much under the tree. Well, far enough away that we could see him. It was a good-sized tree. Sorry. Yes. Did we ever witness a kill? Not on this trip. For the wild dogs on our previous trip, we did see the chase, where one wild dog was chasing an antelope, and it was amazing. We saw him run across this whole savanna, came back, ran up this road, came back, ran through this campground. We didn't see him, but the driver anticipated a kill, and so about a 10-minute drive away, we saw the kill, and by that time, it was pretty well gone. One thing that's interesting about wild dogs is, they're very family-based. You've got an alpha male, an alpha female, so all the reproduction comes from them. They're the ones that mate. But they do take great care of the kids. Basically, on a kill, typically they will take the food in their mouth, they'll regurgitate it back to the young, typically before they feed themselves. That's my understanding. I can't prove it, but they take excellent care of the young. Yeah.
So, is there more than one male lion in a pride?
Not necessarily.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is there one male lion in the pride? Typically, there's a coalition, maybe 2, 3 males that come in. I think that's more typical from what I read and from what I see in various nature things. So, it's easier than, the life of a male is tough. They're not always waiting for the females to do the kill and bring them food, though that does happen sometimes, but they're frequently, they need to be off marking their territory to let other lions know that, hey, this is my area, this is my pride, stay away. If you want this pride, you've got to come in and fight me. And so lions are born, and after 2 or 3 years, they're kicked out of the pride. And they're off by themselves, often with other young males. And then, though, if they get strong enough, they might come back and try to take over a pride. And they will often kill the young because they want the young to just be of their genes. And sometimes they will kill the females also. It depends. So and then the time that a male has domination of that pride is very limited. It can only be several years before then someone bigger, tougher comes in and knocks them off, and they then take over. And then they're on their own until they die. So life of a male lion is tough. Good question. Jan? That'll be the next video. Jan was asking about the story about the elephants around the tree in the beginning, and I'm going to do the next video is going to be of that one encounter. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. This video is of an encounter, a very rare encounter. Patrick, can we have full volume on this, please? A newborn elephant while on safari with Elephant Trails Safari Company out of Maui, Botswana. Hi, my name is Brian Lotimus. We left camp for a morning game drive at daybreak around 5:30 in the morning. Around 9 a.m., we encountered some ellies gathered around a tree, somewhat unusual, since usually ellies are out grazing around in the morning. We soon see a very, very young ellie, who I'm going to call Junior, emerge from the group, struggling to walk, his legs very, very rubbery.
About 15 minutes after first arriving on the scene, we see Junior in trouble in a hole, kind of in the background, trying to get out of that hole.
Notice the whole herd, very protective of Junior. Go, Junior, go. Can't see in the back, but we just know he's trying to get out with the help of the others.
A short while later, we see Junior out of the hole. We don't know how he did it, but he's up walking around. Here we see the mother eating the afterbirth.
So this was a very rare encounter. Kind of thing not too many people get to witness. Yeah, it was quite something. Just any questions about this? Yeah.
Do you know what the gestation period is for elephants?
What is the gestation period for elephants? I don't know, it's like a year and a half, roughly, maybe. 22 months. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I mean, what we did here was very typical. We'll see something, and you're going to stay with it because you just don't know what's going to happen. You know, I'm a volunteer at the zoo, and I see people just walking through areas. Well, there's a lion, there's a zebra. It's like, stop and spend some time, with these animals. They're amazing. Wait a little bit, and you may see something really amazing. Okay, I think that's about it on the Ellies. So the next one is going to be, it's going to be in a game reserve that I certainly cannot pronounce. It's spelled Xakanaxa. Zonica, or something like that. But this is our second game reserve. So Zonica, is however you pronounce it. It's in the heart of the Okavango Delta. If you've ever seen a lot of nature shows from Botswana, chances are they took place in the Okavango Delta. The Okavango Delta is a network of rivers. It's fed by snows from Angola to the north, and it's just a home for a lot of wildlife. So what this one is about, we saw a lot of lion activity, a lot of lion kills. But this one is of lion cubs. This is of lion cubs. So take a look and think about all the work that a mother lion has to do. Just kind of think about that. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end. Those are guinea fowl. Those are alarm calls that they make because the lion is nearby. Cubs crying. They were just fed. What do they want? Gotta love cute lion cubs, huh? Any questions? 3 days typically at a camp. So yeah, so we had the four different game reserves and roughly 3 days at each one. And then we had the travel time, mixed in there to get from one to another too. So, though when we'd be traveling, we'd be doing we'd be looking for wildlife. So, yeah, just think about all the work of the mother lion. I mean, she's feeding them. She has to watch out for them because they can become victims of other predators. And by the way, as I understand it, lion cubs, typically 2 out of 3 will not make it to age 2 or 3. They will either be killed by, they'll lose their lives due to disease, or could be killed by other predators. I mean, they're young, they're vulnerable. So the mom has to keep track of them, make sure they don't get lost, become victims. And then the other thing was kind of subtle. And one of those slides towards the end, mom is up on the hill, and there was a kill showing kind of midway in between. So mom has to guard that kill so that others don't get it, and then she has to eat also to have the energy to feed the cubs, which seems to never end. And so then there's times that she has to chase off all the predators that are on the kill. So that last slide wasn't really good view, but there were birds that were coming in and trying to take part of that kill. So a lot of work, busy being a mom lion. Okay. So our next one is, let's see. Oh, we're going to go to Kwai. So Kwai is our third, this one I can pronounce, our third game reserve. I love it just because there's always water there. The Kwai River is always running, and just lots and lots of elephants and some other great animals too. It's a hippo. So now we're going to see wild dogs chasing a lechwe. So there was a river there, and the red lechwe got away. We'll talk about this necking behavior a little bit later. That's a test speed. Elephants gathering at the water hole. Watch that little guy in the middle and what he's doing with his trunk. A little bit hard to see, but we'll talk about that. That's the wind you hear blowing.
It's okay with you guys. Just go up to that spot over there. Then you can watch around both ends.
Elephants dust themselves to help keep the heat off as well as insects. This is a cheetah. Cheetahs are very solitary, hard to find. It's my sister Marcia who traveled with us. She was my tent mate. First bridge. First bridge is above water. Third bridge is underwater. First time I got there, I thought, you're kidding. This is a bridge. It's underwater. First time through, I had no idea. And it was so rough that I almost lost my camera bag. It just almost went out of the truck. But anyway, questions? Yeah. What were the giraffes doing, the necking? So these were younger giraffes, and basically when it comes to kind of like lions, you know, the younger ones at some point will want to take over. I don't know what a group of giraffes is called, I can't remember. But as they grow older, if they want to take over, you know, a group of females, that's the way they will battle to gain control of that particular group. So these are younger ones, and they're just basically practice necking, if you will. So other questions? It was hard to see, but that young Ellie that I'd mentioned in the water was just swishing its trunk around. I've seen also younger elephants. They cannot, you know, eat or drink through that trunk, and so sometimes you just see them blow bubbles. But then you did see that one go up and nurse. So they will continue nursing until they become mature enough, grown up enough to be able to do that then. Okay? Yeah. Just, there was only one shot of a cheetah at the end, and just, in Botswana, they're rare. I've only we've seen several, very, very rare and hard to find. They're usually in solitude or by themselves. But you get up to Kenya, and you'll see large groups of cheetah, especially during some of the migrations. So, okay? Yes? Well, we have crocodiles in Botswana. This particular time we saw, I don't remember that we saw a live one this time. In past years we've seen them. But anytime you're near water, the guides caution you, because they can just jump out and grab you in a split second, So you got to just stay clear of waterways. But this time, very few sightings. Very few sightings this time. Okay, other questions? Okay, we're going to move on to Savuti. So this is the fourth game reserve that we had encountered and traveled, did game drives on. So this one's going to be a little bit longer. One thing about Savuti, first time I went in 2014, the Savuti River was flowing, and it was just amazing. We would see herds of wildebeest, whatever, Cape buffalo. Actually, we encountered one herd that just ran towards the river and actually circled one of the other trucks, not the truck I was on, but so it's this one truck and just all these animals running down to the river to water. So I don't know where they came from. Clearly they were thirsty. But then in the next time I went, which was 3 years later or so, the river had dried up. There was no water in the Savuti River. So why does that happen? There's a lot of seismic activity in Botswana. So that's supposedly the reason why there's been some seismic shifts up in that particular part of northern Botswana, which then stops the flow. That also happens a lot in the Okavango Delta, where you'll see things constantly changing. So every year I'm there, something is different. Like one year water will be in a river, and the next year the river will be dry. Some rivers never dry up, some of the bigger ones, like the Choli River. But things are always changing. So just think about what that does to the wildlife that was there in 2014. If I'm a hippo or a crocodile, what do I do after that? Because the river is dry. So they will do their best to find other areas where there is water. But the amazing thing, though, is that the wildlife, certainly going this time in 2023, the wildlife was very abundant. It was just different. And that's the way Africa, Botswana is in general. It's always different. Things are always changing. So here we go. Let's check out Savuti. This is a long ride. I dread it every time. But it had rained just before we got there. This kudu was amazing. We saw it a couple times.
It's got a stick about 1 meter long.
Yeah, it looks huge. They're jamming
Termites.
a stick down here and it's
About
going down there.
30 times the size of the ant. It's got help. And that'll go down. They've got
Okay,
the chamber
try to
where
move
they
that
grow
stick
fungus
into that hole.
Oh, okay.
on the
Okay.
on the wood.
Uh-huh.
Come on, boys, you can do it. Little help from my friends. This elephant had birds on it. Don't know how it got burned, but it was outcast apparently. So this is the riverbed of the Savuti River. Yeah, we do have truck problems from time to time. These are some of the man-made water holes. Look at the size of that elephant footprint compared to a shoe. Elephants always get respect. Here's the giraffes wondering what's going on. Another day, the same kudu up on that hill. It's magnificent. Heading to the water hole. Small they are compared to the elephants. see the zebra in the background? The zebra are waiting their turn. He'll get out eventually. What have I done? Now it's the zebra's turn. One of the most amazing things I've ever experienced in my life. Now it's the wildebeest's turn. This is a big hill covered with sand, and we encountered this pride of lions up on top of the hill. So was that prey? It's like, so the lioness saw it, and it started to stalk it, kind of, but it never did pursue it. Our two different groups. This is everybody. Wow. That elephant parade, this is just a short glimpse of it, but Guy, our driver, saw it, and so it was like really far away, and he positioned himself in a position that they basically walked right in front of that truck. It was just one of the most amazing things. It's just, every time I see this, it's just amazing.
So is there a head elephant?
There is a matriarch. Normally it's the oldest female, the matriarch, and she's the one with the memory that knows where to go, remembers where the water holes are, where to find water, knows the time of the year, and leads them on. Not this trip, but another trip, we encountered a herd of maybe roughly 12 elephants, and we encountered them, and they were all very, very still. And we watched them, and for about, it seemed like it was like 10 minutes or so, they just stood there. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, but they all started moving in unison. It was like one took off, they all took off. Their feet moved all at the same time. So how do they do that? You know, rumbling, you know, they do these sounds that we can't even hear. But no, it's the oldest female that, and then as she dies off, younger ones have learned all these things, and there will be another matriarch come in. It's amazing. Yeah, the family life of elephants is just amazing. Yeah, where did we shoot the water hole shots? We had Kwai. Kwai was a water hole, so that was a natural water hole. So we would come and go throughout the day. But this last one was Savuti, so those were man-made water holes. So does that answer your question, or? Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, we would go in and look for activity there. Often there would be, and then we would just stay there for sometimes hours. And then we'd go back maybe later in the afternoon. So typically, I mean, we do these game drives in the morning, when hopefully especially the big cats have been active overnight, and maybe they're like the wild dogs. You always see them typically active in the morning. Usually they'll have a kill in the morning and a kill in the late afternoon, early evening. So they'll feed twice a day. I don't know, not sure what else to say about that. But we would just go back from time to time and see things, especially if there was a big kill, like of lions, which we didn't show here. We'd go several times, even maybe the following day, because the carcass was so large, and we'd know that they would be back. Yeah. Questions? Yes, Jan? Did we ever have a close encounter with an animal? No. I mean, sometimes you'll see the young elephants and do kind of a fake charge, if you will, but young males will do that. They'll kind of look at you and go, move the ears around and roar a little bit, but they're just bluffing. Yeah, fortunately, I've seen videos of attacks on trucks by elephants, but fortunately, we've never experienced that. Other questions? Okay. It's been wonderful to share this all with you. I thank you for coming, and maybe you learned some things, and maybe it kind of gets a desire going to do a safari sometimes yourself. I mean, I happen to go to Botswana, and that's where I've had the opportunity. Safaris in Kruger and South Africa are very popular. Kenya, Tanzania, of course. Lots of people go there, sometimes too many people. It's more than I'd ever want to experience. It's like sometimes during the migration, somebody was asking me about this earlier. It's, you see so many trucks there. I'll see like 20 trucks loaded with photographers of the bank of the Maya River, all shooting the crossing of the wildebeest, say, or the zebras, and then all the crocs, targeting them. But that's not for me. It's just who I am. Anything else? Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming.